Well, welcome everybody. My name is Mette Petersen. I'm president of Koelnmesse Incorporated. We are the wholly owned subsidiary of Koelnmesse GmbH. They're headquartered in Cologne, Germany. And we're basically the sales and marketing arm of Koelnmesse here in North America. We cover the US, Canada, and Mexico. We promote all of the various trade shows taking place in Cologne, primarily in Cologne, but also around the world. We typically organize some 80 events in Cologne and internationally. And that's basically our function here in North America. Our office is in Chicago. Currently, of course, we work from home, like I think almost everybody. But our office is based in Chicago, and we've been here for about 18 years or so. I wanted to. Well, the purpose of our meeting today is to provide you with some of the lessons that we've learned in terms of traveling to Cologne and to Germany over the years. I'll introduce you to my team in a little bit, but as you can imagine, we've traveled to Cologne for many years and have gathered quite a bit of experience in terms of what works, and we certainly would like to share some of those lessons with you. I also wanted to just briefly address the current trade show situation in Germany. You've probably been following the news as well, and heard that consumer-related mass gatherings are not allowed in Germany currently, and won't be until the end of August. Fortunately, we recently had some encouraging news in the sense that B2B trade exhibitions have been allowed again in Germany, with restrictions, of course. But starting next month, it will be possible to organize B2B exhibitions in Germany, in the various states. So as you can imagine, we are very happy with that. Each state handles things differently. And with that, Koelnmesse is working very closely with the local authorities in the city of Cologne and also the state of North Rhine-Westphalia to implement these various restrictions. And as a matter of fact, Koelnmesse is spearheading a task force to develop a post-corona exhibition manual, so to speak, that really outlines how to manage and handle our shows once we reopen in the fall. And we're expecting our first events to take place in Cologne again early September. And just to give you a feel for what our colleagues in Cologne are working on, they are of course looking to implement as much physical distancing as possible in terms of the entrance areas, the exhibition halls. You can imagine the aisles will most likely be a lot wider than what we typically see. There will always be rules within the booths and meeting rooms. The same thing with the restaurants. There will be sanitizer stations throughout the fairgrounds and so on. And we will most likely also implement a mandatory collection of registration data so that it's possible to contact individuals after the show in case it should become necessary. An app is also being developed for crowd management and for information purposes. And there are even discussions of making personal tests available in Germany that we as individuals can take ourselves. Results should be able to be provided within 2.5 hours. And with that, when we attend Cologne shows, should be able to take the test at our hotel room shortly before heading to the fairgrounds. So lots of ideas and initiatives out there, and we're certainly looking forward to implementing most of them as we go along. So let me introduce you to my team. I think our next slide. Our main speaker today will be Darren Stern, who made the introduction. Darren is our Director of New Business Development, and here is our team. Darren has been with us for 15 years and is working on most of the lawn and garden DIY shows. And just as a brief overview, I don't want to go into too much detail. I know that a lot of you who registered for our meeting today are familiar with us, and I know many of you have actually been to Cologne as well. So feel free to chime in later on and give your input. But just for you to get an overview of our team, apart from Darren, we have George Van Brink, our operations manager. Rita Dommermuth handles our dental shows and video game shows. Kate Freeman handles all of our food technology events. Kasia Misha handles all of our furniture and design shows, as well as Kind and Jugend, our children's show. Veronica Woods handles all of our food shows and confectionery shows. Franz Balbe does a little bit of everything. He mainly does PR for us, but is also closely involved in our dental shows, some of our food shows, furniture shows, and so on. And last but not least, Leslie Fleck is our visitor manager, mainly in charge of VIP accounts for our food and food technology events, as well as furniture events. But Leslie supports us with most of our trade shows. So with that, let me hand over the reins to Darren to give us some details in terms of traveling to Cologne.
Thank you very much, Meta. As I'm sure will be the reoccurring question, where even probably many people came onto this call because I see very familiar names and companies that have been with us for many years. Some of this information is repetitive. You guys have been with Cologne for more years than maybe even I've been with the company. But what we wanted to try to do today is to just kind of reintroduce and remind people about how to get to Cologne, how to work through Cologne as a tourist or as a trade visitor. And along, we will share what information we have available at this time and how we're planning to bring trade fairs back. On the screen now, you should be seeing kind of a general overview of Europe. Most of our clients who do come from the United States or North America and Canada have 4 main airports that they can choose between. Being in Chicago, it makes life very easy. There's multiple flights a day. Kawabroski, our travel partner, who we're going to have join us for additional questions about hotels, shared an email with us today that even Lufthansa just announced they're bringing upwards of 1,800 flights worldwide throughout all their hubs starting on June 1st, and then ramping up the flight schedules globally as they move forward. And then they're also going to be ramping back up all of their inter-Europe travel with some of their other brands. I think it's EasyJet, I forget, apologize, what some of their low budget airlines that they operate within Europe as well, to start bringing life back to the new normal. When you travel to any of these airports, Frankfurt is only about 45 to 55 minutes via high-speed train over to Cologne. Sometimes flying directly into Cologne can be challenging from North America because there aren't direct flights from the United States or Canada. You would have to be changing planes in London or Munich or some other point. One of the other nice attractive things, if you haven't been to Koelnmesse in the past and you're considering it for one of our upcoming events, Amsterdam, very wonderful place to visit, is only about 3.5 hours on the train. And the same can be said for Paris. So it's very easy to travel into one of these cities, take a day or two, then come to the fairgrounds or have the opportunity to visit on the way out. A number of clients make a big trip of it whether they're doing it with family or then continuing on for additional business trips. One of the things we have done in the past year is we are partnering with United Airlines here out of our Chicago office, where we have 2 different codes that will provide some discounts. We'll be generous to that to say that sometimes I've seen it as little as $50. I've seen it sometimes before $500 on the cost of a ticket. These go out in our emails. You can always contact your project sales manager that Meta had on the screen. The PowerPoint will be made available afterwards. You can always ask them for your specific code and you can check it to see if it's of a savings for you. The airline industry is an interesting beast, to say the least. When we look at hotels, because that is obviously a critical piece, what we have on the screen, we have a travel partner based in New York City. Carol's group is TTI Travel. We've partnered with them for many years. This is just a small sampling of the properties that she works with. The pricing that you're seeing on the screen before some of you want to jump off the side of the bridge, this happens to be for IDS in March of 2021. This will be one of the larger fairs that actually come to Cologne during the year. It's a dental trade show, so it's a medical-based event, and it will bring upwards of 150 to 200,000 people to town traditionally for this event. So being that the city is still somewhat small compared to hotel capacities to what we're used to here in America, in Las Vegas and Chicago, the hotel capacity does get a little bit stressed, and you'll see prices raised. But what's nice is you have a East Coast-based team. Her and her colleagues can help you as long as you talk to her. Reaching out to her, basing on what your needs are, concerns, brand loyalty, distance to the fairground. She'll work with you on a one-to-one capacity. I would even say more important than ever as we look towards our fall shows for Spogagata and Kinderjugend, two events that are coming up pretty quickly here, working through what are cancellation policies, what are refund policies, how will it work if I book a hotel room today? When do I have to make decisions by to get 100% or 25%? And there's, unfortunately, every hotel is a different set of rules, is a different set of animals. The way the Marriotts and the Hyatts react and treat guests, or our ability to do things will be different than sometimes some of the smaller, more unique hotels. Each have a different set of flexibility, but her team are the experts that we rely on to help us understand and work you through navigate that path. The current situation with hotels in Cologne is they're coming back online now. They've just started to open up. They will continue to open up as the operators of those different properties are prepared to be ready to handle guests, or as they see the demand high enough to bring guests back on property. There's a little bit of both. Some places are just going slower because they don't feel the demand is there yet. Cologne is heavily reliant on the trade show business as what supports sometimes these hotels throughout the year. And the fact that we've had a number of events canceled this year does have an impact on those businesses. But similar to things that we're seeing here in North America, plexiglass shields between you and your cashier at the supermarket, between you and your hotel check-in desk, mandatory face masks for the guests and for hotel staff, getting rid of buffets. Most of the things, as you can read through down this list, sound like our hometown. Germany is going through the process of reopening. They're a little bit more advanced than we are here, particularly in the Chicago area. One thing I would stress as we go through this, and where some people will have questions, is, well, what will it be like in September? If you can tell me, I'm running out and buying a lotto ticket. Only because we don't know. It's an experiment. We're all hoping that we do this properly, and we listen to the scientists, and we listen to each other, and we respect each other as we move through it. But each day brings another challenge. So when sometimes we have to speak is, as of today, these are the rules that we have. Tomorrow, we might have new rules. Or we might see more and more of these rules go away. By the time we get into September and October being for our Orga Tech show, you might see hotel bars now ready to reopen. But again, at least asking people to stay a certain distance. There were some funny photos from Berlin of outdoor dining where everyone is sitting with pool noodles on their heads. And that's their kind of distance. So don't come within my little pool noodle, and now you're 6 feet away from you, or about 1.5 meters. So there's all sorts of funny things and funny ways that we're trying to get through this, where we do have a lot of IDS customers on the call, or even some Eisenbahnmesse customers on the call. We're talking February, March of next year. Again, we're looking at who knows what, because there might be a vaccine. We might all say we're back to 100% hanging out in bars and sitting on top of each other. Or we might find, again, what's that new normal and what's our how we socially work together in this new aspect. The only thing I can say for sure that I keep seeing is people want to get together. No matter what government does, we seem to want to connect, we seem to want to hang out, and we seem to want to learn from each other. Depending on your industry, some industries need to touch the product, some you can see it a little more digitally, but it seems to be that at the end of the day, we are humans and want to climb back in climb back into our old routines. I guess that's the problem with being an old guy here. I want to keep going the way I've done it. What I'm going to do, in a moment after the next slide, I will kind of pause there for a few moments and give it a chance to see if there's any questions specifically up to that point. One of the things to give people a general idea of the city, if you haven't been there before, is on the map now you have, let me get the mouse over there. The general proper of Cologne that most people consider the downtown area, people tend to refer to it by the cathedral. The Dome Cathedral is the center point of the city. You can kind of see it behind me here. I'm standing in front of it, or sitting right in front of the building along with my friends from Carnival. It is the centerpiece of Cologne, and everything is built kind of spiraling away from that in distance. The fairgrounds is one train stop away. Our south entrance to the fairgrounds is here called Koelnmesse/Deutz station. And then you have a direct line through our new south, or our new south entrance, because they've been rebuilding it, into our 11 building complex. And there's actually a bunch of construction almost being done, because we're actually, believe it or not, adding on to our fairgrounds, adding new exhibition halls, adding new conference centers, there's new hotels, there's new apartments, there's new office space, and other commercial properties being finished in this territory here. And so there are hotels directly across the fairground. There's like about 4 choices right over here, which literally you walk across the street. The Hyatt is about probably a 5 or 10 minute walk moving over. I think it's in this direction. Personally, I always tell my guests downtown, because downtowns are always fun. That's where you have the nice restaurants, you have nice bars, you have the shopping, you have the ambiance, and the feel of being in Cologne. Personally, myself, to give you a sense of distance, there it is, Friesenplatz. I stay up over in this area of town. If you are in the mood for a nice techno club and want to get your 16-year-old and 17-year-old age bodies back out again and be up to 5 in the morning going into nightclubs, come join me. We'll be over there in Friesenplatz, and you got to wait till about 1 in the morning to even think about walking in, and we're not cool if we don't show up until 3. That's that part of town. It's nice, you can always eat because the pizza places are always open, but the distance-wise is from here to the Messe. It takes me about 15 to 20 minutes on average using public transportation. So it's really actually pretty close. I've stayed in the same hotel for 15 years. I feel like it's a home to me because I'm just so used to it. I'm going to pause there for a moment, and I would let you do control your own microphones if you'd like to take a moment and open them up. Does anyone have any questions so far about hotels, air travel, that aspect of coming to Cologne? There was one question that was emailed in earlier from an individual asking, what are the trains like? What's happening in regards to public transportation? From what we understand, and when I talk to my colleagues over there, the local trams, I guess you can call them, the types of trains that I typically take, are running as normal, but they are having longer breaks in the evenings for deeper cleaning process. So they are showing that. They, on Deutsche Rail, the intercity rail, the ICE, face masks are, it depends on how you read the English to German, it's anywhere from highly recommended to required. I'm not totally sure on that actual translation, and it varies a little bit because as those trains move through the different states, these rules are varying, just like here in the United States. What Florida is doing to what Chicago is doing to what North Dakota is doing are slightly all different, and how they're handling things like face masks. But in general, particularly in the early days in the September, October range, I think it'll be very common to see these types of things. As we move further and further back to normal, I think it'll be interesting personally to watch how we all readapt and how often we use those things.
Darren?
Please.
Hi, Melissa Summerfield from Toronto. This may be simply too early to answer, but I know in past years, the hotels were pretty strict with cancellation policies. do we have any feeling yet for how flexible they're going to be? In other words, I know there's always a high demand around IDS, so we've always tried to book rooms early so that we can get them. But right now, for example, in Canada, we would not be able to fly out to Germany because of the travel restrictions that are in place. So if we were to book something in terms of a hotel, any idea as to how flexible they're going to be with cancellation policies, or not yet?
Carol, I know you're on the phone or on the line here.
Yes.
Would you be able to unmute yourself and take that question, please?
Sure. It's on, I'd be honest with you, it's on a case-by-case basis with the hotels. The American chains have been flexible. We've delayed actually taking deposits for IDS for the moment for exactly that reason, because we'd like to wait until our cancellation deadline, you know, a few weeks before our cancellation deadline. But it is on a case-by-case basis. I wish I had better news for you, but I don't know. I can only talk about prior shows. As I said, the American chains have been very kind. Shows that have been postponed to next year, they've taken the deposit and they've applied them to next year.
I guess as a follow-up to that, Darren or Meta, will you guys be able to sort of keep us updated as to when, or Carol, maybe, you know, when hotel bookings should be done, or, you know, when things are starting to fill up? Or should we just—
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we will certainly keep you as informed as frequently as we possibly can as we receive the information. I don't know whether Carol has anything to add, but
Yeah.
Certainly we'll keep you informed on a very regular basis.
Yeah, and I'd be honest with you, you know, we're receiving requests now for hotels. People are asking us to block rooms, and I will hold rooms for you, no deposit required, until the middle to probably till the mid to end of September. So if you do need rooms, just send me an email. I'm not sure if you have the list. Let me know what you need, and I'd be very happy to confirm them for you, again, with no deposit required.
Super, thank you.
Sure.
And I think to answer that question, if people are looking towards this type of topic, where I think going forward, I think what everyone's going to be looking for around the world is who was the first trade show to come back online? Who was the first that's going to pull off a small gathering to a mid-sized gathering to an international gathering? IFA, to give you an example, the Consumer Electronics Show in Berlin, previously had canceled the event, 100% not doing it. Today, they reverse course. Berlin does have a ban on events for anything over 5,000 people to the end of October. But the organizer now has backtracked on the full cancellation of the event to making it a invite-only event with no more than 1,000 people per day. This is an event that rivals CES. It's 200,000 people-ish that come to Berlin. It is the European version of CES, for anyone that knows the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas in the beginning of the year. So that is and they now will be, as far as I can tell, the first international trade show. I'm sure there'll be other smaller events that are taking place over summer. The summer's not a big trade show season in Europe, but I can imagine there's things that I'm not aware of that will end up happening as kind of small little, we'll say, tests as we go through this. IFA opens on September 3rd off the top of my head. I'm sure all of us will be looking to that. Or here in the United States, Reed Exhibition Companies is currently scheduled to do the National Hardware Show, again, that same first week in September in Las Vegas. So as Las Vegas, I think I just saw a news announcement that the first hotels will start opening next week or so. As they start coming back online, this summer will be a test of how does Vegas survive as they bring back, I mean, the Vegas buffet is gone. How does Vegas operate? You know, the poker tables where 10 to a table now are 5 to a table. You know, as we move through this process, or the nightclubs and the, you know, the things that have made Vegas Vegas, we will see how it works, and hopefully it doesn't backfire and cause us to have to make other choices. By the time we see an IDS, I'm personally hopeful, and I'm feeling confident that we will have already been on the ground running for a while and seen how large scale events operate. Because things like, again, here in the United States, an automotive show called SEMA. Again, this thing brings 175,000 people from 150 different countries normally. I'm glad they're in front of us. You know, that'd be a nice one, because if they pull it off and they figure out how do you process people, and they photo ID badges. I go to the event personally because I cover the automotive segment, and every badge has a photo, and it's safe. It's a very close contact, very tight room. And I've been to CES, and that one's, again, another one that's right after the first of the year. About as close as you can get. They actually set up over New Year's and Christmas. Those events will lead the way so that by the time we see something like an IDS, it'll be second hat already. You'll already have gone through it a number of times, and the industry would have made mistakes, made corrections, made mistakes, made corrections, and been through and be caught up already, particularly by the time in IDS. Spogagapa, our lawn and garden show, will be on, we'll call it the bleeding edge of how do we bring trade shows back, because that opens on September 6th.
In addition to that, Darren, if I may just add, I mentioned, of course, what I know Koelnmesse is working on, but there's also a German trade show association, as well as a European and global trade show associations. And of course, they're all working together to develop things jointly and learn from each other, just as I'm sure we'll be learning from US show organizers. So I think it's very much a partnership, because we're all very interested in bringing our events back, as you can imagine.
Yeah, and the events in Asia have started to return. They've now successfully held a few, I'd call them medium scale events. One was an auto show, another one was a material show. Well, I think one was South Korea, the other one was in mainland China, with new procedures, temperature checking and self-check-in registration, and everyone wearing face masks and little stickers on the floor about how do you wait in line. Granted, it's a culture set that's a little more used to these types of things, particularly the face mask and waiting in lines, but you're starting to see people in the industry of trade shows are watching how do crowds work and how do these things work to make them efficient platforms. But we're still seeing a great interest in this from both sides, from buyers, importers, distributors, because they still need to find good products. Manufacturers still want to make good product and sell good product and get it into people's hands. The slide that you have on the screen now is just kind of a general overview for folks that haven't been to Cologne before. One of the nice things when you come to Cologne is your exhibitor ticket and your visitor ticket cover local transportation free of charge on the show days. So that's something rather unique too. I find the Cologne events, or maybe it's all German events, and IDS is particularly different of the Koelnmesse events because there's such a demand, and we realize Cologne city proper can't really handle all of the hotel needs. They actually extend the coverage of the free ticket, the free transportation system goes much further than typically had for Spogagapa. It gets you about 2/3 of the way out to Dusseldorf and not all the way down to Bonn. Where at IDS, you can stay all the way down in Bonn, which is about, I think, 45 minutes on the train, maybe 50 minutes, depending on how many stops and which time you grab, as sometimes a reasonable financial alternative to going down there. If you want a social distance, Bonn will be slower in the evenings than downtown Cologne, without a doubt. Even on the busiest of trade shows, it's still nice because you're getting a little bit outside of town. Any other questions? I'll ask this question to there's about 40 somewhat people that are still on the call with us. Was there something that you were hoping to hear covered in, whether it's related to your specific event or to the trade shows in general? Would anyone like to unmic that? Maybe there's something that wasn't covered that you were hoping to hear. Meta, we're that good. We've pre-read everyone's minds. No one has any additional questions. One of the other questions that people had asked is in the email was, where's the 2020 schedule to our 2021 schedule? Koelnmesse at this point is coming back online as of September. So all of our September and forward events are as scheduled. No changes at this time. 21, again, no changes. The only thing that happened to our 2021 schedule is some of the events that we weren't able to execute this year were postponed to 2021. So Cologne will even be more busy because personally, there's 2 shows that were supposed to be this year that now have been relocated to 2021, where it should have been their off year. And there are other events in that same scenario where you're seeing there'll be a greater demand and impact on the city. There was just a text brought in. Are we seeing exhibitors or attendees dip for the events that are taking place in September? Industry specific is the best answer to give. Attendee registration, unfortunately, is on that side, it's a bit too early, because if you think about where we are, we're only in May, June, July, August, and then September being, so we're almost 3.5 to 4 months before the opening of our Lawn and Garden Show. We only just opened ticketing to our Lawn and Garden Show. So we don't really have the data to give direct feedback on that. When it comes to exhibitors, I can say for my Lawn and Garden, out of typically about 80, I think this year I'm slated to have about 80 clients and about 4,000 square meters. So far I have 3 companies that are on the fence with what they want to do as it relates to the current pandemic situation. In the same breath, yes, attendance will be down. Just by sheer fact that we're humans. We see restaurants opening, people are not running back to restaurants the day they've opened. There's going to be some time in marketing that has to happen for everybody to be comfortable again to return. Corporate policies of some large, Facebook has said, for example, not that they attend any of these events. Facebook has made a corporate policy, they're not traveling to 2021 June. Done, anything over 50 people. Fortunately, shows like ABC, like Kinderjugend, like Spogagafa, there are global buyers, the Home Depots and the Lowe's or the Walmarts and the Amazon, but yet those are industries made up of a lot of mid-size and small buyers and importers and distributors that need these events. And if you take a look at Spogagafa as an industry, the lawn and garden sector can't keep up with demand at the moment. People are buying barbecues because we're home. The hardware and tool sector, everyone had to make a home office. They've been selling power cords and desks and tables and chairs, people repainting rooms, all sorts of things. People had to create new offices, had to go out and buy this product. Personally, I look at my own backyard. I'm looking to put in a new deck because I hate my deck. Why? Because I'm home looking at it every day. I want to enjoy my outdoor space a little more, where before I was never home. I traveled a lot. I went to a lot of trade shows. I didn't have to worry about the outdoor space. So you're seeing those kinds of different industry-specific demands come in. IDS, hey, we still eat our candy. My teeth are still rotting away. I have to go to the dentist. To which even them, I believe my orthodontist for my children, they're now coming back online. So that's where, so again, they'll start using supplies and having to order, and hence the circle of life shall continue. Are they allowed? Yeah,
okay, go ahead, Darren.
I was going to go on there. Another question now just came in. Are they allowing the U.S. to enter Europe without the 14-day quarantine? I would say today, no. Yes, today we need 14 days extra to enter Germany. And you will have to notify them and tell them where you're staying, and they'll check up on you. But I say that as we do not know what will happen as we reach to the fall. The best articles that I've read and the conversations that I've had with people is, even within Europe, they have quarantining. You can't travel within Europe at the moment, but every European country is looking at each other saying, we have to get over this, or else Greece is going to fall because they need the tourism over the summer. The Germans want to go to northern Italy to their summer homes, or to Mallorca, or to Ibiza, and all of these wonderful places that the Europeans love to travel just, I hate to call it domestically because it's one continent, but say domestically for the continent. They will be the first test. Those rules are going to start coming down as of June, from my understanding. They're going to start relaxing European travel. So again, that hope as we reach back towards July into August, we will see that international restrictions start changing, and it's going to be country by country. The rules that I've read from Germany, they will be monitoring and labeling which countries need to do it based on the outbreak in those countries. So US could be fine. India, maybe there's still a hotbed. I don't know. I mean, it kind of depends where we are as you move forward in time. You were going to, and Meta, you had a comment you were going to add there? Or a different topic?
Well, I was just going to ask a question to Melissa, since I know Melissa is in the dental industry, and Darren, you mentioned going to the dentist and orthodontist yourself. Is there anything that we as show organizers can learn from the dental industry? in terms of how to handle this moving forward?
Well, so the last dental show that took place in Canada was the Pacific Dental Conference, which took place in Vancouver, March 7th through 9th. And in fact, there were cases of COVID-19, and at least one dentist did die after having attended PDC. So the other Canadian dental meetings have been canceled for this year. So the ODA, which was due to take place the first week of May in Toronto, was canceled. The JDIQ, which was supposed to take place the last week of May in Montreal, was canceled. So right now, dental offices have started to reopen in Western Canada. In Ontario, dental offices are still closed. There are only emergency care is being provided.
Okay. And what are dentists doing to keep their patients and themselves safe?
Again, it really is very dependent. So for example, when Saskatchewan opened, the Royal College of Dental Surgeons of Saskatchewan sent around guidelines which ran to 12 pages. When Manitoba opened, their college sent around guidelines that amounted to 3 pages, which is somewhat ludicrous because I don't believe that the practice of dentistry is that much different from province to province. So unfortunately, there's still a lot of confusion and a lack of consistent requirements or guidelines as to what dentists can or can't do, should or shouldn't do. And one of the things that our body, the Dental Industry Association of Canada, is trying to lobby is to sort of get some level of consistency that, you know, doesn't tie dentists' hands so much that in fact, sure, you can open your office, but you can't use, you know, anything like electric. You can't do any aerosol generating procedures. If you do, you have to leave the operatory to settle for 2 hours. You know, it can't be so onerous that they can't in fact practice dentistry. So we're hoping that within the next 3 to 4 weeks, we'll start to see that Ontario dental offices open, and by then we'll already have had maybe a month of experience out in Western Canada, and hopefully we can take their experiences and translate those into somewhat more realistic requirements or guidelines for practice.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Melissa. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Some of the other questions, another question that was sent in is being asked, will there be limits to the number of staff that you can have in your booth, and then tied to that, the limits to attendees on some of these events? The best answer to both of those is that's what we're working on. These rules that this task force is working on, that Koelnmesse is one of the leading organizations with, is taking a look at and will give us kind of a prescribed set of rules, how many people per square meter are allowed. So things like in a 12 square meter booth, how many people are you allowed to have in your booth at one time? Whether it's you know, is it going to be 50? No, because you can't social distance within the, you know, that's not possible. So they're going to be making those kinds of prescribed changes and guidelines, along with, I was told, like for Spokagafa, where we're going to be creating some zones where you can take other meetings. So that as if you don't have enough space in your booth, you'll be able to take that appointment to another place to have it where you can do it. So there isn't necessarily a set limit on staff, but yet potentially a limit on the number of people per square meter. The same types of thing, same thing like is monitoring how many people go in and out of a hall. I expected that will be kind of a procedure as well, somehow counting people as they go in, so that we don't exceed the number of square meters, number of people per square meter of a prescribed hall. I did get a request. George Freeman, you noted that you'd like to say a few words. So I'm going to stop speaking there and let you open up your mic.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, you can, sir.
Yeah. Okay, we're looking at something that's going to happen in, just 1 second, getting some feedback. We're going to be getting into this about 10 months from now. Just today or yesterday, the CDC in the United States had a new guideline saying that coronavirus spreads mainly through person to person, does not spread easily on contaminated surfaces, which changes the whole situation both in the dental office and in a dental meeting. So you don't if it doesn't spread easily on contaminated surfaces, you don't have to worry about surfaces, products, touching things, multiple people touching things. And I think we're going to see a lot of change in the next few months. And I don't think it makes that much sense to overplan today for things that might not be considered a problem in terms of health in March of next year.
That means I can buy less Clorox wipes and less cleaners for my house, make my life easier with my wife, because she yells at me all the time for not sanitizing the surface enough. Absolutely, you know, I think you're right. It's because every day the science is giving us something new.
And I personally think, although this is a feeling, this is not a scientific statement, that we'll be behaving a lot more normally, certainly by next March, and I think long before that, than most people really expect.
That's really good news. I completely agree.
Look, you know, the science is not from me. The science is from the Centers for Disease Control. This is just something that came out, I think today or yesterday. And if you look up CDC surface contact spread of COVID, you'll see the whole story. And if that is eliminated, then a lot of the problems that we're anticipating will not actually occur.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that.
Yes, thank you very much. And as things like the testing gets better and faster and easier to access, will be, I think, a key piece to the whole puzzle. And we'll also count on the NFL pushing the way to make sure that we get back to stadiums also. We will trust their billions and trillions of dollars to make us all kowtow to get back into our mega stadiums and all happy. Any other questions at this point? I believe all the questions that were emailed. Oh, the one other question again, across the board for people that are in some of the fall events, because that may be like that Spogagafa, Kindernugen, some of those early test bed events. If the question was asked about if the event needed to be postponed or even say flat out canceled, what happens to any payments that are made today? With our events that we have had over from Eisenbahnmesse, into Zhumbangzhou, to name a few that were postponed, or Tire Cologne, Photokina, these different events, once they are postponed, Koelnmesse is giving you a choice. You can stay on, you could sit at the table and keep your money in and say, I'm coming to the next event, and it's already paid going forward into the next event. Or at that point, you have a time window that you're able to say, no, I'm taking my chips off the table and I'm pulling back, and you can get a 100% refund on the things from Koelnmesse. And I say that specifically because it's the things like our booth space, or if you buy booth construction from us. If you're getting a third-party booth builder, that's between you and your third-party booth builder. As Carol pointed out, the hotels, it's a little bit more of a minefield as far as what the different brands are doing, when you're canceling and making these changes. Those are things that are outside of the Koelnmesse purview. And restaurants, I believe all the other questions, as I'm quickly scanning down an email that was sent in to me, I think we've covered all the other questions. One more last chance as we approach about 4:45 here in Chicago. George, thank you very much for sending us that links to that article. Everyone can take a look at that individually. Anything else that anyone would like to address? Any other comments, questions, concerns? With the silence, we'll take that everyone's happy, or at least they've been able to get the content that they needed to hear or wanted to hear. The whole team is here to support you, all of us here in North America. Any one of us, if we don't know the answer, we at least know who to turn to get it, and can get back to you with some quick response. We thank you all for your time, and I'll turn it back over to Meta to do a final closing.
Yeah, thank you, Darren. I think we may have a final slide with some resources. At least we had that in one of the previous versions. There we go, the links. just so that you can check some of this information, you know, whether it's flights or some of our events, what the dates are, future events. Currency converter, I find quite useful myself, and so on. So just some links we wanted to provide to you. But thank you so much for participating. Really appreciate your time. And we're recording this, so we'll certainly share it with you afterwards. And do feel free to contact us afterwards during the coming days with any questions that you may have. Thank you so much, and enjoy your evening.